Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Never Seen It. This is a podcast about movies that we haven't seen yet. My name is Trent. I'm sitting here with the one and only Betsy.
I'm a podcaster.
That's right.
I do a podcast. You cannot say I'm not a podcaster.
I put it on my resume, and I think that's really the reason why I'm not hired yet.
Did you really put it on your resume?
No.
Maybe you should.
Why would you do that?
I don't know. Under fun facts at the bottom, other information about you.
I think when it's come up in conversation, not in job interviews, but when it's come up in conversation, every like normie I've ever talked to about the fact that, oh yeah, I host a podcast with my wife, they're always fascinated as if I'm like this person from a faraway land, like podcasting. What's that? What do you do with that? all of the questions come out of their mouths, and I'm like, yeah, you just spend a little bit of money on a microphone and a mixer, and you're good to go. It's free to host. I don't know what you want from me, man.
You hit record, you put it out in the universe.
Yeah.
It's just how much effort you want to put into it.
Yeah, really. Anyway, we are here to cover a movie that we haven't seen yet. We're in the dead center, Betsy, of This Means War, where Betsy and I are covering movies that we haven't seen yet that have to do with war of whatever kind of variety you want, whether it's based on real war, fake war, or I guess comedy war. We're going to find out here next week what we're going to do at the end of the episode, but today we're going to be covering a fictional war. Today's entry in This Means War is Civil War, which was written and directed by one Alex Garland. Now, we have covered, how many Alex Garland movies have we done?
I don't think we've actually covered any of his movies where he wrote and directed. The only one we did for the show was 28 Days Later. We did that on Patreon. But other than that, I don't think we've actually covered any of them. But we've watched Annihilation and we've watched Ex Machina.
We had seen those movies well before we ever had the podcast. And, you know, Alex Garland was this guy, especially back in the day that we're talking about here with Annihilation and Ex Machina. Everybody's talking about how his movies are really, really heady. They're beautiful to look at. They just make you think.
He's a cerebral kind of filmmaker. He's of a very small group. Now, I've heard of the ones that we haven't watched, people have been a little bit more split on them. But it feels like his first two, the ones we just named, are a little more universally loved. It's just the more recent stuff that people are like, I don't know about this.
I think people are really looking for another Ex Machina or another Annihilation.
They're applying their own shit to something that their own expectations.
And the man himself has multitudes. We've seen interviews with the guy. And he's a really deep individual, and sometimes he just wants to put out there what is on his mind. And to my knowledge, this is one of those movies with Civil War. Now, obviously, this is a fictional story. It is not about the American Civil War. However, it is about a civil war that happens in America. So, Betsy, why don't you start us off here? What do you know about the movie other than what I just said?
Yeah, so this movie came out last year, and we missed it when it was in the theater, as we are wont to do.
We wanted to go and see it.
We just couldn't find the time. We couldn't find a slot for it. We just had too much going on.
And because it wasn't well received at the time, so we didn't feel like we needed to go and force ourselves to watch it because, hey, it might be nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. But because Alex Garland has a name behind him and the subject matter really interests me, I think, more than you, which is this fantasy world where the U.S. goes to war with itself. I don't actually know the reason why.
I don't have the specifics of the movie, but this is definitely a commentary that he's making because this is a time in America that is very rife with disagreement in our politics.
Yes.
So he just took the logical next step and he said, okay, well, what if that played out in a true modern civil war? And it follows Kirsten Dunst, and she is a war photographer.
She's at least a photojournalist
She's a
of some kind,
photojournalist,
or
something like that.
A journalist. I don't actually know what the subtitle is for her, but at the very least, she's some kind of journalist.
So she's the lead, I think.
Yes.
And there's a group with her, but I am forgetting anybody else who's with her other than Jesse Plemons, who I guess only shows up in one scene, but he was very prevalently featured in all of like the trailers and stuff.
Well, he also became a meme after the movie came out because he's asking the question, well, what kind of American are you? and that just evolved into other things. So I know he's in this. I also know that Nick Offerman is in the movie as the president.
Oh, is he?
Yes.
Okay, well, this is already more information than I really have. It's one of those movies that, even though it was very much being talked about on the internet, it wasn't nearly as in my face as some movies are, where you really have to avoid spoilers. So I kind of had this one come and go in my life. So weirdly, even though this came out over a year ago, I already don't know what we're going to see for the most part.
Yeah, like the other details that I know, like when you think about a civil war, there has to be some kind of alliances between states. And I also happen to know that California and Texas are the big states that team up together. And if you know anything about real politics, that is a far-fetched idea that would never happen. So I think that's maybe Alex Garland just saying, okay, yes, this is a complete fantasy. This is not anything that I think would happen in the real world. But I guess that's all I know. Did you have anything else, Betsy?
Nope.
All right, well, let's go and watch Civil War for This Means War. We'll be right back. And that was Alex Garland's Civil War. Betsy, how you feeling after that one?
I don't know. Like, if I'm being
Okay.
completely honest, it's a very well-made movie. I liked parts of it. There are moments where I was holding my breath, so it's very tense.
Yeah.
But I also am left with so many questions because he does not address all of the things that you're wondering while you're watching this movie.
Yeah.
And I get it. You could argue that's perfect. You shouldn't do that. And by putting it in the hands of the journalists, it's a third-party perspective. They're supposed to be unbiased.
Mm-hmm.
But human beings are not inherently unbiased. They are very curious. They want answers to things.
Yeah, we will absolutely talk about that topic. But you're right. We're kind of, as an audience, we are plopped into this world, into this story, this movie, when the war is already in progress.
It's almost over, frankly.
It is almost over, yeah. And, Color Me kind of surprised here. I didn't expect that we were going to have a movie not about war. This is not a movie about war. This is a movie about the coverage of said war.
This is a journalism movie.
And it just so happens that it's happening during an American Civil War. Now, the circumstances behind why is there a civil war, what was the cause of it, who are the factions, and all of the other details when it comes to the politics. And I'm not saying like Democrats, Republicans, anything like that.
Who's the, quote, good guy and bad guy is not even addressed.
Irrelevant.
We are not given somebody to root for at all. We don't know if the people who win at the end are the people we should be hoping to win. We have none of those details watching this movie.
At the very least, he's not putting it in your face.
No.
But as you said, this is more of a war journalism movie than anything else. Now, apparently, Alex Garland and some of the actors in the movie do have a journalism background. The guy went to school for journalism.
Joel, the guy?
Yeah, the guy. Alex Garland himself, his family has a background in journalism. So at the very least, Alex Garland here wants to put you at least in the perspective of somebody who was going through it, from a correspondent, from a photographer, from a witness, from an observing point of view.
Which really would be his own point of view as somebody who is not an American citizen. He is from London or England somewhere. I know he's not American. So if you're writing a movie about an American Civil War, what better way to portray your own perspective than I am an impartial party here?
Also, he is a filmmaker. More than anything else, he is a filmmaker, and what do filmmakers do? They capture footage. Now, the footage they're capturing is all fake. All of it is make-believe, but you're still doing it. You are capturing what is happening in front of you. That's what a photojournalist does, but in this case, they're capturing real life as it happens. The only difference between you as a filmmaker and you as a photojournalist is filmmakers have a point of view. And photojournalism and journalists in general are not supposed to have a point of view. Their point of view is the lens of their camera.
Whatever they see in front of them.
They are observers and observers only, which is explained throughout the course of the movie by Lee, who has been in, war-torn countries and in the middle of other wars across the world and whatever else. She's been through the shit, and she has learned whether those experiences are turning her into a husk of a person or not. This is just who she is at the moment. And yeah, you can kind of call her cynical here for, giving this young person, this young photojournalist who looks up to her. You might think that, she's being crass or she's being dismissive of anybody else who is trying to do this because she clearly knows how to do this best. But at her heart, this is just what she knows. This is the only thing she knows how to do.
It would be really easy to go down that road and say she's really cynical and cold as a person. But in this line of work, you have to turn yourself off to such an extent. You have to be extremely present and reactive, and you cannot be emotionally involved in the situation. So yes, it seems like she really doesn't want to get these people involved, but it's coming from the most human part of her because she would feel like shit if something happened to them on her watch.
Good journalists know what to capture, and whether that is through a lens or to ask a question, good journalists know they know what to capture when it comes to the humanity of it all. Being a photojournalist just means that you're capturing a very slight moment in time, and you have to know when to press the button to actually take the photo.
You have to keep clicking and clicking, and she says you might have one good photo out of 30.
Yeah, 30 to 1. What does she say? The ratio of what to put into the trash?
That you end up deleting,
Yeah. But in that same vein, you as a journalist, the good journalists know how to separate themselves from what they are witnessing. You are an observer, and you are being counted on to report back to home base, whatever that happens to be, whether you are employed by a newspaper or a television station, radio station, whatever it happens to be. Or if you have if you're independent, if you have a website, remember websites? But you yourself are having to bring whatever you are witnessing back to the people who can't see it for themselves. And I think Alex Garland here obviously has a point of view when it comes to, hey, we should respect journalists. And you know what? People in this movie, the soldiers, they respect journalists. And that's a lot more than what you can say about, a lot of things happening in the current world today.
And again, it's not choosing a side. Like, you see them at different points in this movie, presumably taking pictures alongside both groups in this war.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of people in military uniforms, but then there's people just in street clothes. And they show them at different points of the movie taking pictures of each. And they don't explain, once again, who is a good guy, who's a bad guy. Is everybody who's in a military uniform the Western Coalition or whatever they called that, the Western Forces? Or is there still some semblance of an American government? Are the people in plain clothes just people? Are they part of a government?
Yeah.
They don't explain any of that. So at any moment, we could be looking at this going, well, shit, now they're with the enemy, quote unquote. But that doesn't matter to them because they are just there to report the story. They are just, here's real life. This is history. We're a part of it, and we're going to get it on camera.
Think about all of the names of battles from wars past. There were journalists embedded on both sides of every conflict, and their perspective all kind of comes together in order to tell the story. How do you know about the Battle of Gettysburg? How do you know about Bunker Hill? It's because not only the soldiers came back to report what happened, but also people who were there who were supposed to just witness what was happening. Because, of course, in the fog of war, you as an individual fighting in the war, you're not trying to observe all the details. You're not trying to, like Betsy and I went on vacation and we ended up in upstate New York this summer. And we were around the Saratoga Springs area observing some Revolutionary War battle sites. And all of this stuff here, it's coming from so many different sources not only from military sources, but from people on the ground who are just there, not even as journalists, but just people in general.
Anyone who wrote it down,
Yeah.
letters, correspondence, newspapers, whatever they can find to piece together the history of what happened.
Yeah. So when you look at a movie like this, or you even look at real life, if you see a journalist or a person with the press pass on their shirt or whatever, people who don't understand might look at that and say, well, they're clearly along with them. Why would you want to go off and interview the enemy or whatever? I remember back in the day when Dan Rather went to go and interview fucking Osama bin Laden and other people like Gaddafi and all of these other fucking assholes throughout history. And they would ask, why would you go and talk to them?
Who's talking to them?
Yeah.
Someone needs to talk to them.
Yeah. How else are you going to be able to explain to the American people? Because he's there to get a perspective on behalf of America and, you know, the companies that they work for. But anything else that you would get out of a conflict like this would only come from government sources. And you can't just trust the government. I'm sorry. That's why we need journalism as a profession.
And that's obviously what Alex Garland is saying here. Like there's a lot of subtext, there's a lot of things he's talked about as it pertains to Civil War outside of the movie while he's promoting it and explaining what his message is.
Yes.
And the things that they don't explicitly say in the movie are why California and Texas join forces, because on paper that doesn't sound like it makes sense.
I mentioned it in the intro where in the real world, this would never happen.
No, but the idea in the movie is that these two see a really bad force in charge in Washington, D.C., and they join their powers because they're the two biggest states and they have a lot of resources.
Right.
They join together and they march across the entire country to stop this president. The only thing we get about this president is that this is his third term, which
there's a couple of things that they say here.
Okay, what's the other thing then?
The other thing is that the president disbanded the FBI.
When did they say that?
In the same conversation. The same conversation when he's trying to rehearse the questions that he's going to ask.
And that's the stuff that it's coming so fast at you and it's so subtle that if you look away for just a second, you miss that.
Sure. But in the same kind of vein here, at the very, very beginning of the movie, you get Nick Offerman up there rehearsing a speech that he's about to address the nation.
Which is clearly bullshit.
Exactly. So the line that he's trying to get across to the people who are listening to him, the line he's trying to get across is the American government that I am in charge of is on the eve of victory. And everybody needs to stand up and be aligned with me still. But in reality, the enemy forces, quote unquote, they're actually winning. Again, it's fucking propaganda. And that's why you need these journalists out there telling you what's actually happening.
But again, if you're watching this movie and the Western forces are taking over D.C., if you're just watching Washington, D.C. fall and the president is being killed, as an American citizen, you're just going to look at that and go, what the hell kind of a movie is this?
I mean, you're questioning what you're even witnessing here because this would never happen. You're telling yourself this. It's kind of a cognitive dissonance thing where you can't really believe what it is that you're looking at. And go back to all of the huge moments in our lives that we witnessed live. Like, you know, people who are a little bit older than us, they talk about the Challenger exploding. You know, they plopped a bunch of kids into the fucking classrooms and we're watching the televisions as the shuttle blows up and there's a teacher on board. Going to our own lives, you know, the fucking Oklahoma City bombing and 9/11 and, you know, I could keep on going, all of the tragic things that happen in our lifetimes. But you don't want to believe that a horrible thing is happening before your eyes. And again, I'm going to keep on harping on this. The photojournalists that are bringing you this information are invaluable to a representative democracy. And unfortunately, these days, with the advent of all of this AI shit that is out there, where people are starting to distrust the stuff that they're seeing online, and sometimes they should. So yeah, Alex Garland here he's kind of juggling a whole lot of topics and just stances on things, which is why maybe I think a lot of people are coming to this movie and saying, you know, this is kind of all over the place, and I need a bad guy to root against. I need
Yeah.
a good guy to root for.
That's the
I don't want to
thing.
do homework.
That's the thing that I keep coming back to is we don't know who we're supposed to root for. People are simple and they want a good guy and they want a bad guy. But the problem is in a civil war, everyone's the good guy and everyone's the bad guy. If you're not being told the specific details as to why this war is happening, and is it a good thing that the Western forces have taken out this president?
And I think the movie Sin is being called Civil War. That's really the problem here, because I think audiences coming to see this movie are being advertised to saying, hey, it's a war in the US in modern times. They don't know going in that this is really about photojournalism. You're not going to be able to sell a movie like this to the general populace. And, slapping Alex Garland's name on it certainly helps that. But I think the general populace, when they come and see this movie, they're going to come out and saying, you know what? That was fucking preachy. I don't need to be preached to.
They feel like it's a lecture as opposed to entertainment.
Right. And that sucks, honestly. If they were to just advertise a movie like this, honestly, you might get a different demographic coming out to see your movie. But considering the environment that we have lived in for the past, decade, it seems like something that might have been more successful if you were honest about it. But I think that's a good enough point for us to take a little bit of a break here. We're going to play a message from our sponsor. We'll be right back.
Critics everywhere are raving about patreon.com/neverseenitpod. Superfan Stephanie says, all this for $5 a month? Incredible. Phineas Butterfield of the New England Journal of Medicine calls it available content. Betsy's grandma says, what's a podcast? Don't miss your chance to experience this phenomenon. Join today.
So outside of the fact that this is a photojournalist movie / Civil War movie, we've also got some slices of life in their journey. One of the most surreal moments in the entirety of the movie is when they're going along the line and they make it to, I think, West Virginia. And they stop in this downtown area. They're driving through what looks like a suburban town, and there's kids playing in the street. You got an old woman walking a dog.
People watering the lawn.
People are literally watering the lawn after we witness in New York City, people are fighting over water rations. And at one point, they stumble into some boutique somewhere, and they're buying dresses and clothes and whatnot.
Yeah, there's a bored girl at a counter reading a book, and she says, let me know if I can help you with anything.
Right. And the guy asks her, you know that there is a civil war raging in the rest of the country, right? And she's just like, well, if I don't pay attention to it, then it's not really a big deal.
And that is something that they repeat a lot in this movie.
Yes.
My dad is sitting on a farm in Missouri, and he's pretending this isn't happening.
Pretending it
My
isn't
dad
happening.
is in Colorado, pretending it isn't happening. All of the central states, the part of the country where we live.
The flyover states.
Well, we're nowhere near the coast. We're nowhere near the states that have gone to war. We're
the
nowhere near the
battles.
cities or the battles. So why do we need to worry about it?
Right.
We're going to keep our heads in the sand. It doesn't really affect me, so I'll just be quiet about it. This is another moment of commentary. There is a lot of stuff happening in every country in the world. Anytime there's bad shit going on, it's very easy for you to find that information on the internet. But it's also very easy for you to say, I just don't think I'm going to think too hard about that because it's so far removed from my problems, it doesn't affect me.
And it's just as easy to be one of these people who gets addicted to it. I remember back after 9/11, the idea of this fucking tragedy porn entered the lexicon where people are just fucking glued to CNN and whatever news outlet that you want to speak of. Before 9/11, by the way, the little crawl on the bottom of the screen that just constantly feeds you information about whatever, before 9/11, that didn't exist.
It was used for special occasions, and now it's always
Now it's always there.
Everything is breaking news because we need you to watch this every second of your lives.
Keep watching and keep glued to the fucking TV. That's why in the movie, they don't really go too far into it, but there is a disconnect here between like television journalism and print journalism. I think that's really the dynamic here. When they find the two other reporters who are embedded in the military as they're approaching DC, they've got a video camera. They can live stream.
They're in uniform. They're protected. They're very much involved.
Right. But they've got the state-of-the-art equipment and they've got money. And these other guys are just a bunch of fucking ragtag nobodies that have barely, like, the girl has a fucking black and white film camera. That's how she is capturing everything, which I think she says was even a hand-me-down, so it's probably older than her. So in that same vein here, there is I guess you could call it an animosity between these, even in the real world, there is an animosity between print journalists and, you know, the serious journalists and the people who show up on television.
Well, and now everybody fancies themselves a journalist because everyone has a fucking phone with a camera in their pocket.
Exactly. If you have a nice enough camera and you set up a desk and a green screen and you sit at a chair, if you frame that properly, you would think, oh, I'm watching CNN. I'm watching the CBS Evening News. Nowadays, it is so fucking simple to just look like you're doing the news when in reality, you're just spouting off at the fucking mouth.
The people in Civil War are doing the real news work.
Yeah.
And it's fucking scary and intense. There are people in this world who are like flying across to the worst fucking places on the planet, and they're getting in it and they want to be in it. Because I feel like they're probably adrenaline junkies. You'd have to be willing to put yourself on the line like that.
Like this guy, he seems like jacked to the fucking tits every time they have the opportunity to be near some fucking action.
Yeah, when he says, "You see all that? I'm getting such a hard on right now."
All the tracer fire going off in the background there. Oh yeah, man, I just need to go and see it.
Let's go, let's do it.
That's not why we're here. We're on our way to DC to do this thing.
No, but if in the morning they're still at it, we'll go check it out.
Right, which is exactly what they do.
And there's also the competitiveness of journalists. Like, I'm not telling you where I'm going.
Sure.
This is my story. Get the fuck away from me. I'm going to get there first. I'm going to get the shot. I'm going to get the scoop.
Another really great scene is when they're at the hotel at the beginning of the movie where they meet the old timer. This is where you also get some real authenticity coming out of these people because for the most part, they're not talking about what's going on. They're not talking about politics. They're not talking about policy. They're just talking about what's the next story? What is the next thing that I can capture? But in this scene, they're literally just talking about the status of the war, where it is revealed here that the president hasn't done an interview for 14 months. So that right there would tell you, well, it's possible that the war has been going on around that much time. But in this scene, I think the journalists themselves can kind of let their hair down and just really say what they think. Like the old timer says, you're not going to be able to get to fucking DC. They're going to shoot you on sight when you approach the Capitol.
Because they hate journalists.
Exactly. And why would you possibly even want to go there? Well, they all kind of know, whether they have a dog in the fight or not, they all kind of know that this war is about to be over, and they know where the other military really is. So they're going on faith that they can get to DC before the military can in order to go up to the fucking White House under a white flag and say, I'm a journalist. You're about to be defeated here. I want to interview you.
Give me the story, because what have you got to lose?
Because I'm here. You obviously want to get your story out there, at least whatever propagandized version of your story you want to put out there before you fucking die. Anyway, there was another scene here I wanted to mention. I can't remember if it was before or after they go to the stadium to kind of hang out. I think it was after. So they're approaching this kind of open area, and there's all these Christmas decorations up. It's like one of those things that you drive through. At least we have it around here.
At Christmas, sure.
At the Christmas time. But, you know, this is seemingly like summer, spring, fall-ish time of year anyway. Why would you still have Christmas gear up? Well, Alex Garland did not put up this decoration stuff. he happened upon it because apparently this thing that was in real life was a financial failure and they didn't bother cleaning up all their shit. But he found it to be that much more fascinating because if there is a civil war going on in your country, you're not going to take the time to clean up your Christmas decorations.
You're a little bit preoccupied with some other things in your life.
Especially if you are in close proximity to, the capital.
This is another way, though, that they're doling out a lot of information about what this war has done to the country and how it is far-reaching. When they're making their plan to go to D.C., if you know anything about the East Coast and the geography, they should just be able to drive on the East Coast, straight south, on the interstate from New York to Washington, D.C.
It's a pretty quick trip.
But they say that the interstate is all fucked up. Basically, they've just jacked up the entire system.
I think they said it fucking melted, which you could see. Hey, did they fucking nuke the interstate? I don't know.
I don't know exactly what they said, but it's all trash. They cannot go that way. So they have to go all the way west and make a giant loop through these like small parts of the country where the battles are not happening for the most part to get where they're going. And by doing that, they're demonstrating this is what's going on in Pennsylvania. This is what's going on in West Virginia.
Yeah.
This is what's going on in Ohio and, the Carolinas, all the places that they hit along the way to DC.
Yeah, you also get this scene of them encountering this huge pileup of vehicles on the side of the road blocking the interstate. Well, if you've seen season 1 of the Walking Dead television show, that scene should look very, very familiar because at a certain point, if people are trying to hightail it out of wherever it is that there's a lot of activity, yeah, this thing is going to happen. There's going to be a huge pileup of vehicles. Everybody's going to get out of their car and fucking hike it.
Especially because it looks like there was bombs or fire or something because those cars are not all in good condition.
Very much so.
So there's a lot of visual storytelling happening as they're driving through these different parts. There's another scene where they're just driving through a burning forest.
Yeah, it's one of those little things that is really sad and beautiful at the same time. You think about Alex Garland and the stuff that we've seen of his in the past. He also does it in 28 Days Later, where think about all of those famous shots from that movie and looking at a abandoned fucking London. Him using the visual medium to really tell the story. And the thing I was thinking about here, even before we started watching the movie is less than 2 hours long. And what war movie have you seen that is less than 2 hours long? There's not very many of them. And good directors know how to use their runtime efficiently. The other movie that I was getting total vibes from, and I think you're going to agree with me, it is Children of Men.
I could see that. Yeah, it's a lot of chaotic close-up from these people's perspective as we go through the countryside that's in utter disarray. And it's affecting everybody.
But people are still trying to be people. They're trying to move on with their lives in whatever capacity that they have.
There's somebody who just runs in and there's a suicide bomber at the beginning of this movie.
Right.
And then the next scene after that, they're all just hanging out in the hotel complaining about the Wi-Fi being slow.
Right.
That's the transition. There's a lot of that. Or when they do go check out that battle that's happening and they're on the side of we don't know who, after the battle is over, there's this hard cut with the music cue and it's like a fucking rap song.
It's weird. Some of the cues here for the music don't really fit, and I don't know what he's trying to say with it. I can't really tell you if I like it or I dislike it. Right now, I'm thinking I don't like it.
But to bring it back to what you're saying, I think all of these things would hit differently if we were viewing this from the beginning as a movie about journalism. If I had been told before watching this film, this is a journalism movie, this is not a commentary about the state of American politics and taking a stance on anything like that, if you really just whittled it down to its essence and said, that stuff isn't important, what's important is the journalists, I might have viewed this very differently. So I could see it being one that I might grow to really like if I watched it again through that lens.
Through a lens.
Haha. Yeah, I know what I did there.
Yeah, and I think it is presented in a way that is better because she is The Kirsten Dunst character is this veteran who's gone through so many different things. We also get these little montages and flashbacks to her life where she's seeing the horrors of war that she has witnessed all over the world. And a less seasoned and less, even jaded kind of photojournalist, this would not affect them at all. But even at the end of the movie, when they're approaching the fucking White House with the barricades all around it, she is freaking out. She's having probably PTSD attacks here that you can't really do anything about.
Well, and her friend, her mentor, just died.
Yeah.
And she is like cleaning up his blood in the back of the car like it's fucking nothing.
Right.
But clearly it's not nothing, because by the end of it, she's losing it on the streets, and she doesn't do that. Throughout the whole movie, we see her completely calm in every situation. And it's not until after he dies that she really starts losing it on this final approach. And maybe it's just the finality of it. They know this is the end. We got to get this shot, and we're so close now. And there's something about that situation that just sets her off. I don't know exactly what it would be.
But then she does kind of snap out of it here as well when they get up to, well, it's when the motorcade is trying to escape.
She comes back.
Yeah, she realizes, no, that president is not in that motorcade. They would not do that. He's still in that fucking building, and we need to go get him now.
Let's go get the story. And there's a moment that I noticed. So Kaylee Spaney is the Jessie character.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the movie, where she's just this fresh-faced young reporter and she wants to get in this business.
She's getting in there.
When they're interacting and she's got the gear on, and this is the first real fighting she's been close to, Joel has her by the back of her vest and is sort of pushing her out and pulling her back and pushing her out and pulling her back and protecting her.
Yeah.
And at the end of the movie, that's what he's doing to Lee. They completely switch roles.
Yeah,
where
and the
she's the one
military-
being a little too proactive and she's going out. Jesse's going to get the shot. And she's a little too reckless.
Yeah, and even the military people are kind of taking over by grabbing the young gal and throwing her behind him, saying, get out of the fucking way.
She's a little too eager
She's
because
very eager.
she is reacting exactly the opposite of Lee, where she's like, it's almost over and I'm
Yeah.
going to get this fucking shot.
And she ends up getting Lee killed on as a result. Because I don't know whether or not she thinks that, oh, I'm going to get the shot of the president coming out of this fucking hallway or whatever. She just wants to get another shot. But Lee recognizes that, well, this is the lull when people are probably like reloading their fucking guns and they're about to do another volley. And she gets in front of her, pushes her out of the way, and then she instinctively uses her camera to even capture Lee falling down.
And you said Jesse gets Lee killed, but I feel like that's maybe overstating it, because Jesse is trying to do her job and Lee is now invested in somebody in a way that Lee hasn't been. She
right.
has been so focused on the task at hand and not getting connected with people. And it's not until her mentor dies that suddenly she's like, shit, now I'm the mentor and I am invested in this other person, that she dives in there. She didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
Lee didn't have to jump in the way. She could have grabbed her and dragged her out. She could have just tackled her into the ground. There were a lot of other ways she could have done that.
Yeah, part of Jesse's arc here is just realizing you need to capture what it is that you are looking at and not have an emotional reaction to what you are witnessing. Early on, when they have to stop for fuel, we get revealed here that, well, we're not really using American money anymore. We're bartering using Canadian money.
I think sometimes they're using American money, but
Yes,
with
it's just-
this particular audience, Canadian is more valuable.
It's probably hyper inflation that happened. Then $300 American dollars is worth nothing. It's kind of worth nothing these days, but that's another commentary. But Jesse witnesses here a couple of bodies being strung up in this fucking container, and one of the other guys who are just standing guard, he's just very casually walking up and saying, you know, these guys, they were looters, and we don't know if we're going to shoot them today and shoot them tomorrow. I might just beat them up a little bit more and then let them go. And Jesse is just so horrified by what she is witnessing and really hearing out of his mouth, when in reality, a good journalist would keep asking questions and keep capturing footage.
And she didn't even get her camera out. She was so shocked by it.
And
Meanwhile,
she's so angry at herself because she knows that she should have had her camera out.
Meanwhile, Lee shows up late and says, would you go over and stand there and pose for me?
Because she could probably also just tell that this guy, he's not ashamed of it. He's not ashamed of anything that happened here. He's proud of it. He wants to stand in front of these fucking bodies holding the gun.
But this is also part of the story. This is part of history.
Yes.
Someday, when people are learning about the events of this war, this is the stuff we're going to look back on. There were people who were just people out in the middle of nowhere, wherever they lived, and this is the stuff they were doing.
Again, think about all of the famous photographs that you have seen come out of wars past. Those moments just stay with you. And again, that's the reason why they're out there, because photos tell a story. It's not just the text that is attached to them. You can look at a photo and know what is fucking happening. One other visual thing that I forgot to mention, when they're back in that very quaint town, when Kirsten Dunst comes out of the shop and she's talking to the old dude, he says, you know, don't make any sudden movements, but we basically got company. And literally, the camera shifts ever so slightly up, and you can see a couple of snipers on top of the roof that is just out of frame.
But it's adding to this idea, like this little town is like, oh, well, everything's fine. We just try not to get involved. Except it's there. It's always there.
It's ever present. Which again, it's just more visual storytelling here. All you need to do is look a little bit closer or look at more details and you'll get the fuller story.
Which is what a photojournalist does.
Yeah.
So that's the strength. That is the biggest strength of the movie, is shit like that.
Definitely. But all right, there's one other scene here we need to mention, and that's the Jesse Plemons scene. That's the memeable moment here, and I would say this is one of the more intense scenes for sure, because fucking guns are going off. Of course, this is after the Jesse character gets kidnapped, let's say.
So to speak, it's like when we watched Footloose and I was screaming about the girl riding between the moving vehicles. It was that shit again. It's the thrill seeking. These people are in a calm moment in between battles. They're all journalists and they're looking for a thrill. So they're driving really fast down this highway, and then the passengers are switching vehicles while the cars are moving. And that's insane. And then the other guy in front of them takes off driving as fast as he can, but they get stopped by the military. And we are never told who these guys are, if they are actually in the Western forces, if they are American soldiers, quote unquote, because I don't know what they address as the other group of soldiers in this fight, or if they're just guys who have had enough and they're going to fuck around in the middle of nowhere because they don't want to be on either side.
I'm going to pose another possibility. These guys were fucking military guys, quote unquote, but not officially. I feel like these guys are fucking militiamen who, now that the country is at war with itself, they're just out there dispensing their justice on the world. I feel like these guys are fucking skinhead white supremacists who are out there literally trying to exterminate people.
Which is why they say, what kind of American? They don't really care. They're more concerned with, are you an American?
Right. Which they say, the first guy, he says he's from Florida. Well, Florida is another one of these fucking outskirt groups of, I guess, rebels.
The Florida Alliance, whatever that means.
Yeah, the Florida Alliance is trying to join forces with the Carolinas and be its own thing. Well, apparently that got quelled. By who, I have no idea. But he says he's from Florida. No big reaction there. Then the gals say, I'm from Missouri and I'm from Colorado, which, hey, show me another more American state than Missouri, for fuck's sake. At least stereotypically American.
It's an uncontroversial answer to his question in this scenario.
Yeah. Then we get to this other guy who says he's from Hong Kong. And he says, Hong Kong, China, boom, dead.
Well, what he says is, you mean China?
Sure.
Because if you talk to someone from Hong Kong, I would think that's a larger conversation that we don't have
course.
time for.
We're not getting into that.
But it's the fact that he feels the need to say, oh, you mean China, and then shoots him.
Yeah, you're not an American.
And he shot the other guy who's clearly not an American.
Right.
Or at least he's not a white American.
Which is why I feel like this is the other thing that I read here. The glasses that he is wearing, it is meant to like block out certain colors so that when you're looking through them, what he's really looking at is your skin tone, because your white skin is going to reflect a different kind of a color than somebody else who has a more olive complexion, let's say.
Well, speaking of more visual storytelling, I bet if we went and freeze framed on all the bodies that are coming off that truck, there is one particular color not present.
Yeah, fortunately, they did not linger on that shot all that long, but yeah, dude dug a mass grave and is literally dumping bodies into it with a truck.
So I completely understand why people were talking about this specific scene and saying, I would really love Jesse Plemons to get nominated for Best Supporting Actor, even though he's just in this one scene, because it is the scene you walk away from this movie and go, oh, fuck, this is the country we're living in.
Yeah, dude is intense here. And I mean, I'll just say this. We haven't had the chance to really talk about Jesse Plemons all that much on our shows. Any show, really. I think he's only ever shown up in one other movie. That being The Power of the Dog, I think is the only one we've seen.
False. He was in that football movie when he was like 12, remember?
Oh, fuck yeah. I forgot about that. Anyway, Jesse Plemons, I think he's around our age. He is a millennial. He's fucking, I don't know how old he actually is, but...
And he's married to millennial royalty because he's married to Kirsten Dunst.
Yes, he is. But I feel like this guy could be a fantastic actor in his later years as he's going on here, because so far he's on kind of the same level as a Paul Dano for us, because everything we've ever seen him in, he's fantastic.
When he shows up, we are happy. And listen, this could be his year, because they're already talking about one of the other movies he's got coming out. He won an award at Cannes or someplace.
Yeah, I think Yorgos has another movie out and he's in that.
And that might be the one I'm thinking of. But we'll see what happens come Oscar time. We'll be talking about it soon enough, if you can believe it, Trent.
Yeah, Betsy and I actually had a conversation today about what are we doing at the end of the year when it comes to Oscar movies, because
speculating wildly.
Literally, Betsy and I have seen 2-3 movies that came out this year.
2, Trent. We have seen 2 new movies from 2025.
And we've only covered one of them on the show. Anyway, that's a different conversation. Betsy, this year's Civil War movie, I feel like I'm more saddened by it than entertained for sure. But me coming from my own background of not actually being in journalism, I don't talk about this all that much. At one time in my life, I considered going down a journalism path, whatever that happened to be, whether it's writing for a newspaper, being independent, being a photojournalist, whatever the fuck. So I have a deep respect for anybody who follows a journalism path, especially these days when journalists everywhere are being maligned, they're being defunded, they're being fucking killed for doing their job. And far be it for me for being on a fucking high horse recording a podcast about a movie, but this shit matters. And anybody out there who doesn't respect journalists for doing the work, I mean real journalists, not people like us, and not people who have a fucking YouTube page out there who's just trying to farm clicks.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who consider themselves journalists who maybe used to be, but if you look at how they presented the news 20 years ago and how they do it now, when it's all being monetized, they report the news very differently. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. The profession has been cheapened by these people, and that's unfortunate. But anyway, that being said, did you have anything else to talk about before we wrap this up?
I'll leave you with the thing that we just spent, almost an hour talking about. He literally addresses in the movie, once you start asking questions, you won't stop, so don't ask. And then, of course, we just spent a whole lot of time asking a lot of questions, Trent.
Yeah, and normally when we're watching a movie like this and it is leaving me with a whole lot of questions about what is happening in the periphery of the world that we just witnessed, normally I'm the one who is asking, tell me more, have the movie be 5 hours long. But because the movie is about what it's about, I think it works better that they don't tell you.
It completely makes sense once you get to the end of the movie and go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it. But as a curious creature, I can't help but ask questions.
You can't help but to be a little bit unsatisfied by everything that you see, but what's there is still good. All right, that is going to be the end of Civil War for now. Third entry in This Means War is in the books. I didn't expect to get a journalism type movie in here, and I'm very pleased by it.
Well, just wait till we get to the next movie, Trent, because I think there's an accidental parallel we're going to notice.
Okay, then. Well, you're just going to have to wait till after the email section, and we're going to announce what we're going to do next week. But for now, I'm going to read an email that we received a little bit ago. If you would like to email us, the email address, of course, is neverseenitpod@gmail.com. We got an email from our newest superfan, Andrew, who says, up to date. Oh boy, Betsy. He says, hello, Betsy and Trent. Hope you and all your listeners are well. That is me officially caught up. I have now listened to every episode where I have seen the film, and the rest are on my ever-expanding to-watch list.
I don't remember the number he said in the last email, but it was a lot of episodes.
It's a lot. He says, I am a completionist and perfectionist, so I will watch all the films, good or bad, before listening to the episode, and will watch eventually. He is playing the ultimate of home games, Betsy. So, of course, thank you for doing that. You are one of very, very few people who can say that you have listened to so many of them. Stephanie is probably one of them that has listened to the most.
Just because she's been here from the beginning.
She's been here since the beginning, and Mitch, of course, has also been here for a long time. He even listens to the episodes that he hasn't seen the movies, but he's seen a lot fewer movies than you, I'm sure. Anyway, his email continues. And just as a reminder, Andrew here, one of his favorite movies of all time is Jaws, and we read his first email, I think his first email, on our Jaws episode where he reveals his favorites.
Yeah, we got that right before we watched Jaws.
Yeah, so this email is going to be long because Andrew is talking about a few different recommendations, some reports on some other Jaws movies, response to one of the movies that we've covered, and some recommendations.
He's been very thorough.
We're in it here. He says about Jaws, loved your episode. Part of me is so jealous that you get to enjoy this film now with your film knowledge and experiences so that you can appreciate how good it is while discovering it for the first time. That was me, of course. I discovered it for the first time. Go back and listen to the Jaws episode to experience it. He says, my first experience was when I was about 10. I was a sensitive child, and this film gave me nightmares when I was younger. A lot of films did that back then. Yeah. Kind of does to me too, because hey, I discovered that's a horror movie.
And a lot of children see Jaws.
That's right. He says, I grew to love it and appreciate it so much. I revisited it many times and doing a deep dive and reading more and more about it. Currently reading the book, by the way. I have a greater appreciation of how good it really is. The book is very different, and it was my first experience that films could be better than the books, and you can also enjoy different versions of a story in different formats, and they don't need to be compared too closely. Yeah, a lot of people, they just say, oh yeah, the book was better, the book was better. Well, the two things can exist independently of each other.
I love the book version of Pride and Prejudice. I love pretty much any movie or TV version I've seen because the content it's coming from is good. So logic dictates they can both be good.
Yeah, it's just an interpretation. He says here, the sequels to Jaws are an interesting exploration of how different things can go. Jaws 2, I really like this. There are some brilliant callbacks, and I watch this just as often as the original. Jaws 3, filmed in 3D, the effects are horrible and the story is not great, but I saw it in the cinema and have a real soft spot for it. It follows the Brody boys in their adult lives.
A thrill a minute.
Oh, jeez. Have you seen any sequels?
No, I've only ever seen Jaws the once other than when we watched it together.
Okay. Jaws 4, The Revenge. I have watched this one once, and that was too many times. Worth seeing how badly a Jaws film can be done. Also focuses on Mrs. Brody.
It seems like the Shark Kingdom is having a personal vendetta against the Brody family.
I guess. Yeah, trust me, Andrew, these Jaws sequels are not on the docket, so I don't expect to be experiencing these anytime soon. But moving on, later in the email, he talks about Braveheart. Just wanted to share a note on this. As a proud Scot, this film holds a special place in my heart. In parentheses, let's not overthink Mel Gibson and his accent.
Oh, this will be good because I've been curious, and I think we addressed it in the episode.
Of course.
The perspective of a real Scotsman on this movie.
Yeah, he says, but it was about us beating the English. I watched this in the cinema when it came out, and at the end, when Robert the Bruce decided to fight, there was a massive cheer from the audience. This never happens in the cinemas in the UK. I still enjoy it with nostalgia, but I also understand the issues of it. Another example of the complicated world of art and film.
That would be fascinating to see that in a room in Scotland full of Scottish people.
Well, yeah, especially if you're not used to people, being boisterous in the theater.
It's a deeply personal story. They kicked out the fucking English. They're very proud of that.
They won. Yeah. And he's now referring to something that we did over on Patreon. We talked about our vacation to New York. He says, your holiday update on Patreon. I wanted to thank you for sharing this. I really enjoyed it, learning more about you both and what you enjoy, but a travel log is always worth a listen. If you want more holiday time, come to the UK. I'm currently project managing another 30-plus day trip to Australia for my wife and I.
Fabulous. I would love to do that on both trips.
I would love to go to both locations.
Yes.
When I was younger, like in college, the country that I said I would love to visit the most is Australia.
We could do it, Trent. We just have to decide and do it.
Also, I am part Scottish.
Are you really?
I don't think I've mentioned that. Yeah. I think I'm mostly German, but I've got some Irish and I've got some Scottish in me as well.
I'm what my dad refers to as an all-American mutt because there's so many nationalities mixed up in there now.
You got a lot of English in you too.
I'm also mostly German, but there's a large portion Polish and English and Irish and Swedish. And my grandma took a DNA test and they found Greek and Italian in there. So when I say I'm an all-American mutt, that's what I am.
Also, we're very white.
We're very white.
Very white. Anyway, we're getting to the end of the email here. He says some film suggestions. I am a fan of the really old films, and they often hold up really well. Not sure if you've already seen them. Happy to share some more if interested. His 3 recommendations. The original Metropolis from 1927, a brilliant sci-fi film. Amazing how well it holds up. It also inspired C-3PO. I have heard this. Next is Stalag 17.
Stalag 17.
Stalag 17 from 1953, an interesting war movie that mixes thriller and danger with a strange level of comedy. Found this by accident, but became a firm favorite. He spells favorite with a U. That's how you know he's from the UK. And finally, King Kong, the 1933 version. The original monster movie has been remade in 1976 and 2005, but the original is still super inspiring. He says, enjoy your film watching from Andrew. You watched the 1976 version recently.
I have seen all 3 of those versions of King Kong.
Oh, wow. I didn't know you saw the original.
I saw it in high school. I think my uncle had a VHS copy, so I took it home and I watched it. It's the only time I think I've ever seen it.
Okay.
I have not seen those other 2 movies, but I do enjoy really old films.
You haven't seen the Peter Jackson one?
I said those 2. I've seen the 76 and the 2005 version.
Oh, okay.
And the original one.
I see, okay.
The other 2 movies that he listed, Metropolis and Stalag 17, I have not seen.
I got it.
But I do love old movies. And while I've had a little extra time this summer, if I'm in the mood to watch a movie, I'm trying not to think so hard about it. I just go on like Tubi or something that has a lot of variety. And I go, what's got the shortest run time? Or what looks really good.
You turn something on at like 8 o'clock at night and just watch the entirety of it before you go to sleep.
As opposed to it's 9 o'clock and I don't have time for a full movie because I'm old. But no, I like old movies. I grew up on a lot of old movies. I would love to find more ways to get them into this podcast. And I know that is another area that you aren't always drawn to, but there's so many movies that really transcend the time they were made.
Well, Betsy, I'm glad you mentioned that because this is a great opportunity for us to plug patreon.com/neverseenitpod, where we just watched. I can't remember where in the timeline this is landing, but for Never Scream It 101, we just watched the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where I'm going to tell you this, I was not expecting to really like that movie, and holy shit, does that hold up. So you saying that you want to get a lot more of these old ass movies into the podcast, I understand that. I'm just afraid of them.
But you have to
Seriously.
trust me. You have to trust me because
I know.
I think you've liked all of the ones I've shown you. We did
So far,
Casablanca.
yeah.
We did It's a Wonderful Life, White
Yep.
Christmas.
Yep.
We have dabbled. We have not done a really deep dive because we know that most people don't spend a lot of time watching it.
Yeah.
And we want people to actually listen to the episodes.
That is the crux of it. We want people to actually listen to this shit. And sometimes when you're covering a whole lot of 1930s movies, nobody's going to fucking listen. They want us to cover new movies and movies like Jaws that everybody's seen. So yes, we will sprinkle in old movies from time to time, Andrew. It's just not going to be a very common thing. But again, patreon.com/neverseenapod. We got all sorts of stuff over there, not just old horror movies. We have new horror movies, we have romance films, we have our favorite movies, and we have random movies that a machine just takes us to a year and we have to watch the movie in the theater at the time.
That's where you're going to find a lot of those old movies again.
Speaking of old movies, we're going to cover the original Muppet movie from the 1970s?
1979, yeah.
79, right.
That shouldn't by rights be an old movie because it came out 6 years before I was born, but I understand I'm 40 now.
Betsy, we are old.
I know. It's upsetting.
Whether it's upsetting or not, we're still watching the movies. And guys, like Andrew mentioned here, we don't just cover movies on Patreon. We have an entire show where it's just Betsy and I talking about a topic. One of those episodes on the Conversation Pit, that's the name of the show. On the Conversation Pit, Betsy and I had almost a 2-hour conversation just about our May trip that we mentioned earlier on in the episode.
We also have an episode on there about holidays and not in the way that Andrew meant.
Right? We have a conversation about our favorite holidays and maybe not so favorite holidays.
As in like Christmas and New Year's
Christmas,
and
New Year's,
Easter.
Thanksgiving.
Those kinds of holidays, as one American would say.
That's right. So again, not just movie coverage, it's just us having fun over there. And again, we let ourselves have a lot more fun over on Patreon, and I kind of let some of the stuff that I would normally edit out of the normal show here, I let that slide over there because, hey, you're paying for it, so you get the behind the scenes stuff anyway. Patreon.com/neverseenapod. We have all the links in the episode description. Go to Patreon, go to our social media stuff. And if you haven't already, please go to your podcast app of choice, whether it is Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, or anything where you can rate us. I think sometimes you have to listen to us a few times before it'll let you rate us. But please go and rate us 5 stars. It really helps us get in front of more people. But with that, it's going to be the end of Civil War. However, This Means War continues on next week. Betsy, what are we covering next week?
We are going to the 90s for an entry that, as I said, is somewhat related to the movie we just covered today, because we are going to be watching Wag the Dog.
A movie, believe it or not, I have not seen. I know something about it, but you're going to have to come back next week for another episode of Never Seen It. My name is Trent.
My name is Betsy.
We'll catch you then. Bye-bye.
Bye.